of Law is a fantasy book written by Brandon Sanderson as a sequel to the Mistborn trilogy. Fans of the Wheel of Time series may recognize Sanderson's name, as he's the one who finally finished that series after Robert Jordan died. Alloy of Law is set in the world of Scadrial, which can be split into two parts: the Elendil Basin, which is lush and fertile, and is the center of civilization, and the Roughs, which are more barren and lawless, and surround the Elendil Basin. The world is in a period similar to the Industrial Revolution, with guns and trains being well established and electricity just being introduced. The story starts when our protagonist, Wax William Landrian, is called home to Elendil City from the Roughs, where he was a lawman. His uncle has recently passed away, and he's been asked to take charge of his uncle's estates. Wax is finding his new life as a noble terribly tedious until he hears about the Vanishers, a group that has been robbing train cargo, relieving nobles of their jewelry, and taking hostages. Wax ignores the rumors, determined to act responsibly in his new life as a nobleman, until the Vanishers attack a dinner party he's attending, killing a man and taking hostages. The rest of the story follows Wax's attempts to bring the Vanishers to justice. As was already mentioned, Wax is the protagonist of this book. Although he was born to a noble household, he spent much of his life in the Roughs as a lawman. As such, his shooting skills are superb, but he's a wee bit rusty when it comes to court etiquette. It should be noted, however, that he is actually quite smart and acts as a detective for as much of the book as he acts as a gunslinger. Lastly, he's a twin-born, which means he has both ferrochemical and allomatic powers, which constitute both major types of magic within this book. The next character I'd like to talk about is Wayne. Wayne is Wax's smart aleck sidekick. He has a fast tongue, an odd sense of humor, and a hat fetish. He's a master of imitation and can pass himself off as almost any type of person, from a nobleman to a soldier to a little old lady. Like Wax, he is also a twin-born, and the character dynamic and dialogue between these two characters is brilliant and make up some of the funniest parts of this book. Another important character is Steris. Steris is a wealthy noblewoman who set up to become Wax's wife. She knows how to act perfectly in high society, but she has some problems with intimate relationships because she's a bit too practical. This is demonstrated by her first meeting with Wax. Shortly after meeting him, she calmly explains the exact benefits Wax would receive from marrying her and what she would get in return. She then proceeds to give him a marriage contract which outlines the frequency of sex expected in the marriage, acceptable mistresses, how and when to cheat, and so on. Yeah. The last main character I'd like to talk about is Marasi. She's a relative of Steris's who ends up getting tied up in Wax's chase. She's studying criminology at university and idolizes both Wax and Wayne for the work they did as a lawman. She's smart, resourceful, and ends up helping Wax significantly through the course of this book. One of the strongest aspects of this book is probably its characters. The protagonists are likable and interesting, the side characters fulfill their roles well, and the villain of this story is quite well developed. Instead of being a cackling madman or a distant ultimate evil that we see in many fantasy books, he is actually a very human character. I can understand his motives and his thought process, which made him much more interesting than the generic villain tropes. Another of this book's strengths is its plot. This book is incredibly addictive, and once you pick it up, the story will draw you in and you'll have a very hard time putting it down. There are also a number of plot twists in this book, and they are both unexpected and make sense, which is a feat rarely achieved in most fantasy books. With regards to the weaknesses of this book, there aren't actually that many. I would have liked the story to be a bit longer and have a more conclusive ending, but there's a sequel being written, so I guess I'll just have to wait for that. Also, the concepts of allomancy and ferochemy aren't as well explained in this book as in the original Mistborn trilogy, so the magic system may be a bit confusing to those that are new to the series. In summary, Alloy of Law is a thoroughly enjoyable book to read. It does a great job drawing you into its world. While reading the Mistborn Chronicles before this book is certainly helpful, it's hardly necessary. Overall, I give this book a 9 out of 10. Thank you for listening to my first review.